They all called him Grandpa on the first day. With his white hair, deep wrinkles, and slow gait, he looked like he belonged in a retirement home, not a military boot camp. The younger recruits gave him side glances, whispering behind his back, "What is this guy even doing here?" But he simply followed the line, quiet, calm. While all the rookies stood in formation, he took the spot at the very end. Sergeant Bailey squinted. "Hey you, did we accidentally sign up a retired colonel, or did someone lose their grandpa?" The man simply replied, "Samuel Danner, 68 years old." A wave of laughter rippled through the field. 68? That was double the age of most recruits. Some thought he faked his age, others assumed he was a PR stunt. But Samuel didn't explain himself to anyone. On the morning run, he was dead last, breathing heavily, knees wobbling. The others zoomed past him, chuckling. But Samuel didn't stop. He kept a rhythm to himself. 1, 2, breathe. 1, 2, keep going. At dinner, he sat alone. No one joined him, but he cleaned his plate completely, then stood, cleared his tray, and walked away silently. Some of the kids recorded him on their phones, jokingly posting, "Day 1 with Grandpa Soldier." But that night, he slept like a soldier, just like he had years ago. The next morning, a loudspeaker blared across the camp. "Obstacle course test tomorrow." Samuel just nodded. The course included a 6-foot wall, barbed wire crawl, swamp run, and a 45-pound ruck. No one believed Samuel would make it. Some were sure he'd quit at the first wall. But that night, Samuel did something no one saw. While others slept, he tied his worn boots, slipped outside, and walked to the course under the moonlight. He approached the wall, placed his hands on the stone. He failed the first trempe, then again. His knees hurt, breath shallow, but he didn't stop. That night he fought no one but his own silence. The morning of the obstacle course arrived. The sun had just begun to rise, casting a golden light over the dewy ground. The young recruits buzzed with energy, laughing, joking, stretching. But Samuel, he was quiet. He simply slung on his pack and took his place in line. Sergeant Bailey couldn't resist another jab. "Ready, Grandpa? I'm not catching you if you fall." This time the laughs didn't last long, because something in Samuel's eyes had changed, a silent resolve, like stone. The whistle blew. First obstacle, a 6-foot wooden wall. The others leaped over it. When Samuel reached it, he placed a hand on the wood, paused, took a breath, then climbed. He didn't fall. On the second try, he made it over. Slowly, steadily down he went. Next, the barbed wire crawl. Others breezed through. Samuel moved slow and low. His knees sank into the mud. Barbs snagged his jacket. But he kept moving. Then came the swamp. Some recruits lost their boots in the muck. Samuel trudged through, each step heavy. He nearly lost balance but pushed forward. Final test, a 500-meter run with a 45-pound pack. Breaths shortened, pulses raced. Even the young men struggled. But Samuel, he just kept walking. When he crossed the finish line, he hadn't broken any records. But everyone stopped to watch. Silence fell. A younger recruit whispered, "He did it." Sergeant Bailey walked up, stood in front of him, serious now. How'd you do that?" Samuel replied simply, "Years ago, I lost friends on courses just like this. Today, I ran with them." And in that moment, everyone understood. He wasn't just carrying his past. That past was carrying them too. When Samuel completed the course, he looked like a man who had simply finished a task. He didn't wait for applause, didn't expect praise. He just adjusted his uniform, glanced down at his muddy boots, and quietly stepped aside. But something in the camp had shifted. At dinner, he wasn't alone anymore. Three younger recruits came over, introduced themselves. They sat beside him, not asking questions, just wanting to be near him. Samuel noticed, but didn't say anything. He just smiled. That night in the officers' quarters, his name came up in hushed conversation. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? How is he still so strong at his age? He was listed in the system, but his history was vague. One officer suspected he was former Special Forces. Another guessed he might be a combat veteran, but no one really knew. The next day there was a new silence on the training grounds. The teasing had stopped. The jokes were gone. Everyone trained harder. Samuel still walked at the back, but now no one laughed at his pace because they understood he didn't belong to an age. He belonged to a spirit. That afternoon, Sergeant Bailey called Samuel into his tent. As he entered, Samuel gave a small nod. Bailey was serious but curious. "Mr. Danner," he said, "this camp is for the young. But you're sending a message by being here. Why?" Samuel sat down, eyes drifting to the distance. "I didn't come here for a second chance. I'm here because I still have something to fight for, and battles aren't just fought on front lines." Bailey paused. Then he placed a small box in front of Samuel. It was a metal case. The inscription read, "Commendation for Covert Service." Samuel didn't even look at it. "Those days are behind me," he said, "but the lessons I carry from them, they're still with me." From that moment on, the camp saw him differently. He was no longer Grandpa. He had become the teacher. By the fourth week of boot camp, the young recruits' faces began to change. They spoke less, listened more. But one still hadn't learned. Rick Talbot, arrogant, flashy, and obsessed with documenting his every move on social media. Rick never took Samuel seriously. To him, the old man was just a mascot, a novelty. He often set up his phone to secretly record Samuel's workouts, adding mocking captions before sending them to his private chat. "Grandpa does yoga. Retirement muscles flexing." One morning before training, Rick casually strolled over to Samuel's mat. With a smirk, he crouched down and said, "Thought I'd join you today, Gramps. Maybe you'll tell me some old war tales, huh?" Samuel looked up, completely calm. "You truly want to learn something?" he asked. Rick, slightly caught off guard, still nodded, trying to laugh it off. Without another word, Samuel stood and began walking toward the edge of camp, to an old, disused bunker. Rick followed hesitantly. The place looked abandoned, with cracked walls and a dirt floor dimly lit and cold. But inside, Rick saw something unexpected. Samuel had transformed it into a private training space. Ropes, rusted weights, wooden bars, climbing beams. Nothing was new, but every piece was used with purpose. "You train here?" Rick asked. "Every night, while you're scrolling," Samuel replied, eyes steady. Rick paused. For the first time, he looked at Samuel differently. "Why all this effort?" he murmured. Samuel stepped toward a bench. Resting on it was a tattered flag, faded colors, frayed edges. "This was my brother's," he said softly. "He never made it home, but I speak to him here every night." Rick's throat tightened, his smirk faded. He felt the weight of silence for the first time. Samuel reached for a thick rope. Pull it, Rick. Let's see if your strength is more than just talk. Rick tried. The rope was heavy, unyielding. It slipped from his grip, burned his palms, knocked him off balance. Samuel watched silently. Minutes passed. Rick finally sat down, breathless. Samuel knelt beside him. Strength isn't in the muscles, he said. Real strength is choosing to try again, even when it hurts. That day, Rick's gaze changed. He started waking up early, sat beside Samuel in the mornings, asked questions, listened. And across the camp, something new began to take root. Leadership born of respect. Lessons taught without a word. Obstacle course morning, all the recruits stood in line. The air was cold, but tension sweated from their brows. Sergeant Bailey's voice echoed, "Today, it's not just your strength that's tested, it's your soul." Eyes searched for Samuel. No one called him Grandpa anymore. He wasn't there at first. Whispers stirred, then footsteps. Samuel emerged, worn army tee, faded rucksack on his back, and a quiet fire in his eyes. He stepped to the front of the line. No one laughed. No one dared speak. All eyes watched. The course began. Young men charged forward while Samuel moved with steady rhythm. The first wall took effort. His knees wobbled, but he climbed, crawling under barbed wire. His shirt tore, his hands bled, but he kept going. Through the swamp he slipped, nearly fell, but found his balance. The crowd was silent. Rick held his breath. Even the instructors were wordless. The final obstacle, an 800-meter run with a 45-pound rucksack. Samuel adjusted the straps. He paused, lifted his chin. There was something in his eyes. Weight of the past, pride of the present, a lesson for the future. And then he ran. No. He moved like history in motion. Steady steps, rhythmic breath, eyes distant but determined. Others sprinted past him. He didn't care. He wasn't racing them. He was racing himself. When he crossed the finish line, there was silence. No cheers, no chants, but every person stood. They didn't clap. They stood in stillness, like a salute. Sergeant Bailey wiped his eyes, his voice rough. Everyone who finishes this course is a success, but some remind us why we're here in the first place. Samuel said nothing. He dropped his rucksack to the ground. Rick approached and saluted him. One by one, others followed. And that day, Samuel Danner became more than just a man. He became a legend, proof that silence speaks, that age is not a limit, and honor never retires.